Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'm Paul Brooker, and I am joined by the one, the only Zesta from the Crazy Kryptonaut. How are you, Zesta?
Oh, I am doing well, Paul. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing particularly well. I'm back from the march on Saturday in London, where it was Unite the Kingdom. Fantastic turnout, very peaceful. It's not what the mainstream media tried to make out it was. It was a union of people. But anyway, that's for another show. We're here to talk about crypto, and I think we should dive right into our first story. Now, this is a story you brought to my attention, Zesta. Um, Obviously, what it says, Russian advisor suggests US could use crypto to erase the national debt. Dear oh dear, this sounds like a reset of some description, Zesta. Can you enlighten us a bit more on this?
This one is extremely interesting. And so, Anton Kobiakov, one of the economic advisors to Vladimir Putin, also a longstanding friend of Vladimir Putin, last week was speaking about what he believes the current plan of the United States is. And so, what he highlighted was he believes that the United States is planning on utilizing essentially the Genius Act, which we've talked about, the Genius Stablecoin Act, and that the United States is going to use precious metals and stablecoins to erase its national debt. And now he, of course, is following along a very much biased route of, the United States government is out for complete evil. It's probably somewhere in between. But what he lays out is the idea that we're going to spread stablecoins all across the country, all across the planet, and that we're going to start then. We're going to take our stablecoins and take our gold reserves, and we're going to revalue them. We're going to revalue our stablecoins and we're going to revalue our gold. And that in doing so, we are going to erase our entire 35, 37 trillion. It's way more than that. We're going to erase our entire national debt in one fell swoop by spreading stablecoins and then revaluing our stablecoins and revaluing our domestic gold reserves is what he directly lays out. Even specifically mentioning the gold reserves and a very much a part of the legislation you and I had talked about in terms of Cynthia Loomis, in terms of the idea that we were going to be using our gold to pay off the debt, and that we were going to revalue what the Federal Reserve supposedly holds. So that one was extremely interesting, Paul. I'm curious what your thoughts on that one are after hearing it, because I know you were already thinking that something of that nature might be going on before even seeing those comments.
Yeah, now this is a really great story. And every so often we touch back on this. I mean, Zesta, I will tip my hat to you. You found the most obscure story out there that nobody was covering, where someone was trying to pass a bit of legislation about revaluing gold.
Mhm.
And I thought this was fantastic. So I've dug into it a little bit. And the US debt is not going anywhere. They're actually at the point now where all they can do is service the interest. Now, that's unsustainable. And we've already seen it across the board. Countries now hold more gold than they do treasuries. That is the first time in history. So we are seeing the collapse of treasuries across the board. Every country, they're losing faith in their own fiat systems. They're losing faith in US treasuries. You name it, it's all happening. They have to have a backup plan because the US isn't just going to take this line down, are they? They're not going to sit there and go, oh no, our money's worthless. They're going to have a plan to reduce this debt. They're going to have a plan to make the US economy worthwhile investing. Trump's not a stupid man, that's for sure. And he's not going to surround himself with stupid people. So, revaluing all of this to wipe out the debt sounds like a very logical plan, almost like a reset. I mean, have you got any more to add to that?
Oh, only where everyone kind of went running off with that story, because there was definitely, you could see a breakdown amongst folks over what does this mean. Um, and also really how far out does it extend? Immediately, there were calls for, holy crap, we need to start looking into the idea of the United States is pursuing a central bank digital currency, which, of course, we've heard from Trump that is not the case. And then also, we've gotten a vast amount of concern. And this one is outside of just the United States. This one is really a global concern where everybody is now starting to freak out about how much gold do they have? How much gold, how much silver, how much do they have? And now we've been hearing about that for many, many years from a variety of different sources. But now we're hearing about that conversation specifically in the context of cryptocurrency, which is new. That's a new context for countries starting to worry about not having enough gold and silver because of crypto.
Yeah, I mean, we know the US is now coming into its maturity with stablecoins. Stablecoins are everywhere now. I mean, we're even seeing Tether launching a very specific stablecoin just for the US market. We,
Mm.
I mean, this is a new one that stablecoins may be part of the solution to US debt problems, which is fantastic. But you've got to be able to bestow the trust in those stable coins. Now, they're going to have to do something with gold. It's inevitable. I mean, the numbers are out that countries hold more gold. They've lost the faith in the US dollar. That's the long and short of it. You can't look at this any other way at the moment. And they're going to have to back it with gold. They're going to have to restore the faith. I mean, you can't back it with dollars now because dollars is part of the problem. And there's always a big but. This is a very much Wild West phase that's coming to an end. And nobody's tipping their hat yet as to their master plans. They're being very, very careful what they say and what they release. I
Mm.
mean, the US has not selected one stablecoin provider yet to go, this is it. This is who we are backing. This is what we are going to peg our entire economy on. They're being very clever, and we are trying to make educated guesses as to which provider they choose and where. I've got my personal favourite. I think Ripple's in with a good chance. I also think Tether might be in with a good chance because they hold an absolute truckload of US treasuries. I mean, you pointed this one out months ago to me, and I was like, wow. You've got
Mm.
Coinbase as well, who are wanting to put their hat in the ring as well. So there's a lot of opportunity here. The question is, does the US fire up their own blockchain and they do it totally independent? Because let's not forget, the Fed has just done a massive expansion in the basement. A massive expansion. Now, that's not to hold more US dollars, is it? And it's not to hold more paperwork because everything is going digital. The question is, could that be to hold servers?
Mm. Mm. Well, I think though that I think you're definitely getting down to one of the major questions here. Is the United States trying to strengthen the US dollar? Or is it more accurate to say that the United States is trying to weaken everyone else's dollar? And I think that if we take the Anton Kobyakov's statement in terms of what the United States is doing, and we say, and we take it in the context of rather than the United States is planning on executing this by strengthening the US dollar, what if the plan, in all honesty, is to destroy everyone's currency at the same time? The US dollar being a part of it. And that essentially, by going ahead and doing it that way, we're going to get all of these other countries to jump on board because we're already seeing it. You can already go and buy products in supermarkets in Ecuador with Tether, which is pegged to the US dollar. Venezuela has already started conducting the vast majority of their business via US based stablecoins. as this expands and more countries start using the US dollar-backed stablecoins to conduct business, we're going to start to get to a point where I guess the too big to fail mantra gets to an even more extreme level. Or so big that maybe it has to fail, or maybe it's a part of the plan. And then, yes, it would be very easy for the United States to essentially continue to spread stablecoins around the planet and then eventually say, well, guess what? Now you don't have a choice. We owe you nothing. Because the vast majority of our debt is held by foreign nations. And that's the reason that it's so important, and that very often I think it's kind of lost in conversation who holds the debt. It's foreign nations that hold the debt, foreign central banks. If those foreign nations and those foreign central banks are so beholden to the power of the US dollar, they will not be able to say or do anything on the day that we say, guess what? We don't owe you anything. They won't have a choice but to say, okay, you don't owe us anything. And maybe that is the generalized plan, is just weaken everyone else's currency to such a point that even a weak US dollar is still the best option. And then we can pay off our debt for free.
Yeah.
Because the US dollar, we have degraded them both at the same time. We're diminishing the value of the US dollar, but more so, we are destroying the value of everyone else's currency along the way, so that our, at that point, crap dollar still smells a heck of a lot better than holding your money in say a British pound.
And here's a question as well that's just popped into my head, funnily enough, while you were saying that. What if they fire up their stable coin and forget calling it the stable US dollar? That it's going to have a new, weird, wonderful name, because this is where the trickery and the magic comes in. Oh, you've got $1 million US. Oh, that's $1 million US worth of our debt. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. What if we give you 1,000 American coins, and now you're coming across and we've taken your debt away? As you've said, deleting the debt, because let's not forget, they're firing up this whole new blockchain. This blockchain has no value unless they're going to say the words, it's gold backed. Now, imagine it. You've taken $1 million worth of debt and you've shrunk it down to 1,000 American coins. They have no idea what that debt is really worth or how it's going to play out. And you gradually flip the financial system over to a whole new way of thinking, and you've made your debt disappear. I get where you're coming from with this, Esther. And it's actually going to be really, really clever when they do this, because people are going to get lost in the smoke and mirrors of this new stable coin. They're going to offer them whatever it is for that debt back, and they're going to be issued something totally new and different. And it will still be a debt, but it won't have the same value as what they've just handed over.
Yeah. Well, because it will have essentially just said that what you handed over had no value.
Yeah.
By doing so, they are creating a situation where you're going to hand over what you used to believe had value, but you will be under the understanding that it is valueless in comparison to what they are giving you.
Yeah.
And everyone is going to come flocking, essentially, to this new system. And it very much comes in line with all of the general ideas or the general thoughts that we've had over the years about an overall reset. It'll be like, hey, there will be a day and a time.
Yeah.
And on that day and that time, their currency will become valueless and the new currency will become valuable. It will literally be airdropped like a crypto. And in that moment, suddenly a whole new system starts to operate. And it seems extremely, extremely obvious now with everything going on that there is a massive financial shift coming. Not even a matter of whether you're looking off the mainstream or on the mainstream. A financial shift is happening. There has more than enough proof It is more a matter of how's it going to happen and who's going to be the winner at the end is really the only question marks that are currently sitting out for explanation.
Yeah, I think you're completely right there, Zesta. You can see the pieces of the puzzle are just starting to come together. We're on the outside of the puzzle at the moment. We're doing those edge bits, and I
Hmm.
think the bits in the middle are going to start dropping in very fast soon. And they've got to do it with a whole smoke and mirrors effect around it. It'll be called something totally obscure. They won't call it the digital US dollar because it just makes it sound like the one for one scenario, which is not what it's going to be. They've got to they've got to do this revalue almost and somehow shaft everybody who holds their debt. That's it.
We've got to get everybody hooked
Yeah,
first. And right now we're watching it, where essentially the United States is running around and saying, hey, the first taste is free.
yeah,
Just try it.
yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if you tried it? And I think that that's where we're currently at, but I don't think it's going to take very long for it to rapidly accelerate. All it really will take is, and look at the world right now, all it would take is some generalized conflict to start to occur. And then we will see countries and nations start to flee towards the guarantees. And whether that is, in the Middle East or Ukraine or whether it's Taiwan or the like, any of those different things would drastically accelerate the process. But otherwise, it's happening regardless. The
Yeah.
process is not stopping. It really just comes down to do things occur to accelerate it or not, in my opinion.
I mean, it's quite interesting you say that because I know somebody who's left England. They've put a large proportion of their money into US treasuries because the interest rate is particularly good. I think it's like 7% at the moment. Imagine everybody bumping their wealth into US treasuries. You're clawing all the cash back in and you're giving everybody these treasuries that
Yep.
effectively going to be worthless, but they're the only things that are making a half decent return at the moment, unless you're aware of gold, silver, and other bits and pieces. You're right. Get them all hooked. Get the debt spiraling out of control. The treasuries are thrown around because the interest rates have to be higher because you need to service the debt. And you can just see it. You're getting the whole world hooked on crack. And at
Mhm.
some point, there's going to be a switch flipped. How long until that point, I don't know. Maybe this is why the likes of China, Russia, and everyone are collecting in as much gold as they can lay their hands on because they know what's coming and they need to be able to lay their hands on it because the US will effectively, all these little countries that I hate to say it, a two bit crackpot, England, France, all of those, they're not a powerhouse. So they are going to take whatever the US is handing out. They're going to because they've got no choice. But you've got the
Mhm.
likes of Russia, you've got the likes of China, who have their own booming economies. They can afford to buy up absolutely truckloads of gold and everything because they know what is coming. You can see it because they're not buying US debt anymore. They're buying gold and they're holding more gold than they are debt. So it tells you there's a big move, a big shift coming. And we're seeing the pieces all play out now. We really are.
Yep. And and really, the countries won't have as much control over it as they think because look at Venezuela. The
Yeah.
Venezuelan government does not want for Venezuelans to be buying things with US stablecoins.
No.
The United States imposed sanctions, the world imposed sanctions. It placed Venezuela into a position where the government does not have any genuine ability to change what the people are doing. And the people aren't thinking about the fact that their USDT is backed by US treasuries. They just know that their USDT holds up value better than anything else. I can spend it, and it's not worthless the next day after I buy it. And so it really will. It will force countries because the countries are being forced to do so outside of their own control because their people are choosing to adopt US stablecoins. Their people move over to it, and the country, in all honesty, doesn't have a say in the entire event, besides get their own currency under control, which in the current landscape is not going to happen for many nations. The United States is not even going to have to force this to happen. It's just going to happen. They're going to force it to continue occurring by continuing destabilization of certain regions of the planet. And by doing so, those different regions are going to pump all of their money into US stablecoins, which they don't know are backed by US Treasury bonds, because that is what genuinely backs the stablecoins. Many people think that Tether has $100 and some billion of US dollars sitting in a bank account. They don't. They have $100 and some billion of US treasuries. And that's what they're going to keep doing. And all these stablecoin companies are going to keep doing it. It's the Trojan horse, essentially. We get your community, we get your people to start utilizing US stablecoins, and bada bing, bada boom, we're going to be running the country in just a couple of years.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there, because I've got some USDT and a platform I use gives you 12%. It's ludicrous. Ludicrous the interest they can give you. But this is because it's in dollars. It's backed by dollars. And they're giving out a lot of dollars at the moment in interest on those treasury bonds. And you can start to see the Trojan horse appear now, in that if the US turned around and said, well, they don't exist anymore, those treasury bonds, that debt's dead, it's gone. We've wiped it because we're now giving you some snowflake coin or America coin. It changes the whole market. Does that break USDT? Does it break it?
I think what we'll do is say, okay, we're already this far down the general route. We've gotten the vast majority of people hooked onto our stablecoin. What we're going to do to all the US Treasury bonds in order to pay them off is that's where the gold comes in. That's when the US government's going to revalue its gold holdings.
Yeah.
And it's then going to say, okay, you had $1,000 US Treasury bond. I'm just using easy numbers. You had $1,000 bond, and we had said we were going to pay you 5% interest over whatever time frame. Well, now we just decided that we have revalued gold. We have entirely revalued all of the gold. We're going to pay your US Treasury bond in the new currency. And that new currency is backed by our gold. Now, we've revalued our gold. Remember, it's worth way more than it was when we used to have it. Now it's worth a lot. And it backs this new currency. And this new currency is 100% backed by this gold. And so your $1,000 is actually only 5 of the new gold currency. And we're going to pay all of those treasury bond holders back off in it, which these are countries in many cases. And now these countries are going to say, okay, guess what? This new coin is definitely worth something. Because otherwise, they ain't got crap. And so, in a way, by doing it in that fashion, you have forced the world to say, yes, the new US currency is worth a shitload. It's got to be worth a crap load, because they just paid off a $10 trillion debt with it. And so we've got to have $10 trillion of value sitting in this stuff. Otherwise, we got screwed. And so I think that it will. I think it'll work, in all honesty. I don't just think that right. I think it'll work. I think that people will genuinely at that point be excited to have their new fancy, shiny gold US currency.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there, Zesta. And they've smoke and mirrored it enough that you've got no choice but to accept it. Because what, you're going to try and force the American government to hand you $10 trillion, which they've just taken off the market.
Well,
They've just
and they
wiped
made
it.
it, it's not worth the $10 trillion doesn't exist anymore because
No.
they made dollars, the whole idea of a dollar, it's valueless. And so you don't even want that. What else are you going to take? It's literally like, give me something. Okay, here are your jelly beans. Because they will have made the dollar valueless. They'll
Mm,
have made the ruble valueless. They'll have made all of the other countries' currencies valueless. And so, what are you going to do at that point? You're going to take this new fancy shiny something that's worth something.
yeah. Yeah. I think that's exactly how it becomes gold backed, because that's the only way you bestow the confidence, the guarantee, and actually the addiction. Because, if a bar of gold was worth, I don't know, $1 million, but the bar of gold is now worth 5 America coin. And bear in mind, this is a made up coin, everybody. Do not go out there buying
Example.
scam coins.
Example. Yeah.
Yep. You're going to take those 5 America coins because the American government has told you that gold bar is worth 5 America coins. Fantastic. It's okay. Our economies aren't collapsing, but America have done their smoke and mirrors and revalued everything. They've deleted their debt and they're sitting there rubbing their hands together going, I don't know how we pulled that one off, but we did.
Well, and that one may be it. That may be exactly how it
And
works out. I don't know.
and that's why my gut feeling over, and it was when Trump said, "Oh, they've had some basements put in now." My brain went ding ding ding. They're not going to put financial servers for the US government in third party data centers. They're just not going to do it. My gut feeling is there's going to be a lot of server hardware going in there getting ready for what you've just said and what we believe will probably happen.
Hmm.
And because we're going peopleless, why do you need to expand when we're getting rid of people, we're getting rid of desks, we're getting rid of filing cabinets? That's the only thing that makes sense, because we all know data centers are the things that are growing the most out of everything out there at the moment. They're the buildings that are just growing in leaps and bounds. And yeah, wow, maybe we are seeing a new economy getting ready to appear well within our lifetimes. And it's not very far away at all. But obviously, everybody, this is just speculation. This is us using, I don't know, a handful of pieces of the overall puzzle, and we're now trying to guess the picture. But, we've spent a long time in crypto. We've spent, dare I say, almost as much time looking at financials, economies, gold, silver, you name it. And those latest figures that have come out where all countries are holding more gold than they are US treasuries tells me that there's something big coming on the horizon, because those countries would not be buying up that much gold if they thought the US economy was going to hold strong. This is the first time in, I can't remember how many years, countries are holding more gold than they are treasuries. So something is on the horizon and it's coming quite fast. And with the digital economy the way it is, wouldn't take much to just flick it from USD to AC, America coin. It wouldn't take much at all. And just delete 5 zeros off of everything.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you know what? That actually makes the most common sense out of all the other theories that I've got to do with crypto. It's a very, very interesting thing that has now, I think that is the forefront idea now on what is coming. And you know me, I'm a big advocate on gold. You are yourself. And
Mhm.
it's making me think maybe I need to stock up a little bit more on gold now with what's coming. Because if it's coming sooner rather than later, who knows? It could be a very interesting next 10 to 20 years, Zesta. Very
Mhm.
interesting. So, yeah. Well,
It makes it all adds up when you look at the push in terms of precious metals, when you look at the push also in terms of the framework for the new financial system, when you look at Fed now and you look at everything else going on, in terms of the government and a lot of the really, really big financial companies. They're building the railroads for this. It's coming out right now. It's not a matter of, oh, it's going to occur. It is an everyday occurrence that we are seeing either government organizations or some of the big financial companies putting out the next step in this process. I have a very interesting breakdown that I worked with AI on, specifically on how far are we genuinely on this path towards an entirely new financial system. And from everything that I have gone through it with, we are not just we're nowhere near the beginning. We are much closer to the end. Essentially, most all of the different systems have been built, and really what we're just waiting for is connecting them.
Yeah.
And that really it's just the plumbing that hasn't been done. We've built the house, we've run the electrical, we've designed and figured out where we're planning on putting the couch, and everything else. We just haven't run the plumbing. And that's really where we're at in the general process right now.
Well, fantastic. I'm going to put the link to that news article down in the description because I think it's anyone who's serious about crypto and quite possibly what is coming from a financial point of view should have a good read of this because it's exciting stuff. It's crypto through and through with what's about to happen. And I'm very excited. I don't know about you, Zesta, but it's taken our show in a totally different direction today. But I'm going to ask, where can everybody find you?
Oh, yeah, no, it definitely has, Paul. I don't think we've ever had one show where we really just talked about a singular topic
Yeah,
the entire time. But everyone can find me over on the Crazy Cryptonaut on YouTube, and also over on the original Mark C. I show up pretty regularly to talk either crypto or whiskey and wisdom or anything of that nature.
fantastic. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care, God bless, and see you soon. Bye.